I don't normally start my episodes like this, but I'm really excited because I got 2 episodes this month. I'm doing pretty good. Well, if it's your first time tuning in to Medical Experts in Football, welcome. As the title describes, this is a podcast that's focused around culture and soccer medicine. I'm Taiwa Deshikbin, the host. I'm a physical therapist and journalist, and sit back because this is going to be a good one.
We don't do it only for performance. We do it for you. You have to understand that, okay, for your health, for your longevity, as you said, in the sport as well, okay, because if you're not healthy, you cannot play at some point.
And here's Dr. Eirini Manthou. She holds a PhD in human nutrition and is a current nutritionist for Greek professional football club Olympiacos for the U23 and the B team. We talked Greece, Olympiacos, and nutritional considerations for soccer players, from the nutritional differences for a young and older athlete, considerations for injured athletes, and some really key macronutrient needs that many people may not be consuming in their daily eating lifestyle. Eirini, as you know, this podcast is here for soccer, for culture, for medicine, for it all. So I am very fortunate to have my first Greek woman on this podcast. Now, for my episodes, I've been trying to bring a little bit of my guest culture to the episodes, but the best I could do today was wear your flag colors, blue and white. It's just a little too early to eat Greek food, but next time that we meet, we'll have to have some food. Well, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you.
Me too. Thanks for the invitation, Taiwo.
All right, Eirini. So from my readings, coffee shops back then, they were talking about how back in the day, the cafes and the coffee shops were traditionally reserved for men in Greece. Is that actually true?
Coffee shops, really?
Yeah. They were saying back in the day, the ancient days, it was reserved for mostly men.
You're right. Yes.
What's that about?
Now we don't have this. Okay. Don't worry.
Okay.
But yes, back then we had this kind of cafenio. We're saying cafes is coffee in Greek, right? So we had this coffee shops, as you say, cafenio. It was mostly a men's job, really, to go to these shops and drink coffee and discuss and do this kind of socialization. But women were staying at home back then. Yes, they were not working. It was really, these societies of the old days.
Yeah.
But this is not an option for women, we work all day.
Yeah, because now the women, they work, they hold full-time jobs, right? And take care of the family on top of everything, right?
Of course, yes.
Okay.
Yes, this is true. It was weird you said at first, but then I thought, yes, this is back then in hundreds.
Okay, well, good to know, because I like coffee shops, and if I go there, I don't want you guys to not let me in, okay?
No, of course not.
Okay, well, Athens being Europe's oldest capital and truly a country that has had an influence on the world from philosophy, Olympic Games, theater, you name it. What about Greece and the people sets them apart, do you think, from the other Southeastern European countries?
So, yeah, we are very South and very Mediterranean, and the mentality is, quite hot-tempered in Greece.
Most hot-tempered?
Like, yeah, sometimes, yes.
What does that look like?
We get angry easily. We say stuff. We are excited about things. We're doing. We're showing it. Okay, we're enthusiastic about things. So this is about people's mentality, right? But I don't know if you've ever been to Greece. Greece is a beautiful country. It's a beautiful country because you can go to the mountains and see snow, and you can go to the islands and swim in the sea at the same, period of time, and not very far from the sea and the mountains. So it combines everything, has everything. It is very how to say, different environment in a very little space.
Right. And I was looking because y'all have a lot of islands, and I don't know, for me in the States, when I think of islands, I think of like, we need some land, like we need some water, we need land. I mean,
Yeah.
are you walking around like islands, like a couple miles and then boom, another island? What's the setup actually like?
The nicest thing you can do is to sail around islands, because there are a few thousand islands in the Greek territory. But you can sail, and you can go to the bigger ones where, they have inhabitants and people and everything. You can eat nice food as well, and you can go just to swim in a nice place and very quiet place as well. So sailing is one of the best experience somebody could have in Greece, I think.
Okay.
Sailing around the islands. So, yeah.
Okay. And what quiet and peaceful island is one of your favorites to go to?
I like very much the Ionian Islands. They're more green than the Aegean Sea. I don't know if you know the Ionian is one sea.
I've heard of it.
Right, in the western side, and then in the eastern side we have the Aegean Sea and have all the rest of the islands. I like very much the Ionian Islands. They're bigger islands, but they're greener, and they combine, the green seaside possibly with the very bluish waters. So I like very much Lefkada, Zakynthos, Corfu, if you ever heard of.
I'm taking notes, so when I do visit, I will stop by and see that.
You need to visit us, yes.
Now,
on your next journey.
I know, because the closest that I've gotten to Greece is eating Greek food, which we'll get to food because that's obviously my favorite topic in this world.
Sure.
But
wow.
I can't fail to talk about the Olympics, because obviously the history began there, and it was really a religious ceremony to start. And you only had one event, which was a 200-yard dash at the start. And now we have so many events, and it's both men and women competing. Right. Seeing the progression in sports, where is a woman's place in sports today in Greece? Do they see them as their counterparts, being equal, having those opportunities?
Yes, I believe that nowadays men and women are equal in terms of sports and everything else. But sports, and they're given so many opportunities in order to go in the front and become whatever in their sports. So yes, it's the situation is really much better. It's as the rest of the Western world. Yes, but as you say, possibly opportunities are not enough in Greece, because most athletes are struggling with the how to say, the facilities and the money they get from the resources. Okay. Yes, so this happens to men and women as well. It's not only a women thing. Okay. So. Yes.
So do you see the resources, that problem being something that can continue to get better? Do you think maybe more sponsorships or more partners being involved in the sport teams?
Yeah, I believe in that, in sponsorship and partnerships as well. And athletes need also a very good, nice team to work with, with professionals around them. So this is very important. This is something all the teams and the athletes should prioritize. If they do that, I think things will get better and better very soon. So this is something also the society, the government, and they need to give resources to that as well. So the education is very important to them. To have some kind of resources, as you say, it is very important. So I think things will get better, because as we know, Greece went through a very huge economic crisis in the few years before. It's not very the recent year, I mean, the recent
Yeah.
years. So yes, I think this is going to be better in the future.
Okay. Well, how did sports and soccer, let's say, that shape your upbringing?
I always liked sports. You know, as a kid, I did, you know, everything. Track and field, martial arts, swimming, water polo, whatever.
Oh, wow.
I liked it very much. Yes.
Uh-huh.
So, but my school was very close to a huge football club in Athens. So yes, I was an athlete in this club as well, not in football, but track and field as well. So I was very close to that culture of football. And I was, you know, communicating with people in football. And I was watching the games every day within the training and the matches as well. So yes, it was kind of, yes. And I became passionate about that. But I would never say, oh my God, I will work in this field. I would never say that when I was young. Okay. It just happened.
And how did that happen? Now I'm curious.
No, how that happened, because now I should say about my education and stuff, because it started because my first degree is in my bachelor degree in Greece was on sports science, which is very multidisciplinary area. If you ever know, now in Greece we do bachelors for 4 years. Okay, so we have really different disciplines coming in, and I really loved it because you could do from psychology and sociology and education to biochemistry, physiology, nutrition, management, whatever, you know. And this is, you know, this is kind of person I am. I like different things coming in.
Yeah.
So I loved it, and most of all, I loved the part of physiology, biochemistry, nutrition. So I chose afterwards to go to Scotland and do a master's degree in human nutrition, and with a specialization in sports nutrition. So I came closer to sports and athletes. Okay. And afterwards, I remained in the same area. In my PhD, I also worked in this field. So afterwards, while I was lecturing in sports nutrition, I was working in universities and stuff. I had an invitation to work in one of the main clubs in Greece. So
how did that invitation get delivered to you?
I think they saw me in kind of lecturing in a seminar or something like that. So possibly they liked the way talking about things.
Yeah.
Expertise on the field. And at the same time, I am an educator in ISSPF, which is a federation with online courses for football, soccer, say. And we have this course as well. So I worked very much on the field of education before I do the practical thing of it. So yes, the experience, you know, the theoretical aspect was there. Okay. And afterwards, the experience through the athletes and everything. But to say the truth, before that, I was working individually, and I was collaborating with teams from all sports, soccer included. Okay, so
yeah.
I had this beforehand, but not as a daily practice, you know.
Gotcha. And then so here you are now working as the head of nutrition for top professional Greek club Olympiacos, Olympiacos. I knew I was going to screw it up, and I practiced that for the U23 and the B team. What is your role like day to day from a game day versus just the practice?
Let's start with the practice, the everyday work, let's say, because that's the most common. And the everyday, what we do every day is, look, we have 3 different groups of athletes in here. We have those who are staying in, a group of athletes that are staying in, and they are from the age of 15 to the age of 18. Okay. So another group is those who live with their parents. Okay, and they come every day for the training. And we have another group that they're staying on their own. They're over 18. They're staying on their own. These are the athletes of the older groups. So we have 3 different groups we have to set. In the morning, I mostly work with the older squads. Okay, the youth 23. Okay, those who don't have school as well.
Yeah, they're professionals.
They're professionals. Yes, and what we do, we start with measurements, basic anthropometric measurements, and or full body composition measurements. So we start with that, and we identify the needs of each athlete. If there is something that is going beyond the parameters we have set, now then we have to do the individual counseling. Okay, sometime afterwards, possibly. And afterwards they go to training. And after training, we have to prepare the post-practice snack. Okay, which is a snack. I send you some pictures. Yeah. I mostly like doing some kind of smoothies, and I put, supplements and everything they need in it. And it is a way to increase also fruit and vegetable intake, which is very crucial, and people in this age, they don't really, possibly they like, but they don't care about it most of the times. You have to do some kind of, to include some kind of strategies to increase intake. And afterwards, we have to monitor lunch for people staying in, and the snacks afterwards, and possibly do some more counseling afterwards, or some seminars for the younger squads, in the work-based, desk-based work, like reports.
Like at your desk, making reports?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Reports. We have to collaborate with the coaches, with the conditioning coaches as well. Of course, my job is to communicate very well with the food service staff as well, and the chefs, because we have a restaurant in the training center. Yes, so this is, many hours of the day. The younger squads come afterwards, okay, after they finish school, and they have their own things like the post-practice as well. They need some individual counseling. We do some kind of that stuff. Right. Yes. Now, when we talk about match day, now it depends, because if it is a trip, people have to, the squads have to travel somewhere far away. And this is kind of difficult because things change during the trip. Hydration status might change a lot, so you have to monitor that as well. But generally speaking, usually the squads stay in a hotel the day before. Okay, so we have to implement, like, to care for about 3-4 meals before the game. One is that meal planning, okay, and menus, and we have to work with the chefs in the hotels they are staying. But we also have this kind of monitoring the hydration status up to the game, and sometimes we do. I've sent you also photos of that. We do the measurements in urine.
Like when you say monitor hydration, do you, like, is it the color? See the color of the urine?
The color of, yes, the color, but also it is also an osmometric measurement we do, and we get values. It is some kind of machine. You put the sample, you sample in it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Values, and it say if it is good or not, and then you can intervene to the athlete's practice and say you have to drink more, or you are okay. You can continue that way, for example. Okay, so this is kind of what we do before. Now, of course, you have to prepare the supplements pre-game, okay, what you're giving to them. Of course, our philosophy is not to have the supplements very high in the hierarchy of everything else in energy intake, okay, but to use only those that are needed for the case. Okay, this is something we educate athletes to do.
Yeah,
and they know that what they can take and which time they can take, and to discern between illegal stuff and legal stuff and everything. And of course, we have things that can take in the middle of the game or during the game. So it's mostly hydration that we do. And the aftermath, it is dinner or lunch. It depends on the time of the match.
Okay.
And this is all, I think.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. Yes, it is a lot of work.
Obviously, you have experience with this, but when you were first starting, how did you manage all of that and still have a brain to think by the end of the day?
Right. Good question. I don't know. Should be like a computer type, like all these things non-stop, you shouldn't stop thinking. The best thing is coordination and organization of things. If you organize things in a way, then you cannot fail. How to say it is the best thing you can do for yourself and the rest of the team as well. Because if there is no organization, if you don't write it down, for example, I'll never do it if I don't write it down.
Yeah, that's how I am too. And it sounds like that organization probably spills over to just humans in general. If we're really trying to change some of our eating habits, be better, it's good to write it down probably.
It's good to write it down always. It is always good because it changes your behavior towards things. I wouldn't prioritize things if I wouldn't write it down, for example. I would just leave it. And if I don't have deadlines, just leave it. leave it. And it's never done. It's the same. Just think of your behavior towards food. If you don't say, I will do that, and if you don't possibly write it down, then you say, okay, I'll do it another day, from Monday.
I agree. You know what? I'm so glad you are calling me out because I'm a planner girl. I write down everything, goals, deadlines. But for some reason with nutrition, I've never really thought, let me write this down. So starting today, that's going to change. You have the academy and you also have the B team, the U23. And I'm curious, what considerations does your team need to consider? Maybe that's different within each group.
Right. That's a good question because there are huge differences. Because, listen, the guys in the academy, the squads in the academy, they're starting from U10. Okay, we have squads 10 years old. And then we have up to 19. Okay, so this is all the developmental stages. You can imagine every squad has their own developmental they are in their own developmental stage, and within the squads we have individual needs as well, depending on where the player, which position he has in the match. This means that because like U23, they're mostly young men that but they have developed, the development is over. at some point. Okay. Most of the other groups, they have the development as well. So their energy needs are much higher most of the times. They are still taking height and their bodies are not developed as you might think, because muscle mass, it's not something you're born with. You get to acquire it through training and nutrition. So it is something you have to work on it. So yes, there's a huge difference. Also, because I think you saw we had a paper which we presented in isokinetic as well.
Yes,
year.
and we're going to talk about both of those. I'm really excited about that. Yeah, no, you're good.
But we have this paper because it was based on the kids of Olympiacos Academy, but we have kids from other elite academies in Greece. And I find out, and we have like 200 players from U10 to U19, as I remember. So what we saw is that the younger squads, they wouldn't know exactly to follow the guidelines. Their education was not at the point at which they would recognize the right answer. For some reason, their energy intake would be lower than their developmental stage. So we have this kind of difference in education, I believe.
Yeah.
It's a gap we have to fill to do better work on it. Yeah.
And that's very fascinating. You talked about the younger ones needing more energy intake, because I think, and I could be wrong, but a lot of people in society assume kids they're full of energy, they have a lot of energy, but having a lot of energy as a kid is totally different from energy intake required to participate in a sport.
That's right? Because that's why they require more energy, because they're more energy.
There you go. Makes sense. You made it make sense.
The other way around. Yes.
Okay. As you were mentioning before I accidentally interjected, your team's presentation at the isokinetic, and I wish I would have saw you there, but I'm hopeful you might be at some future ones, so one day meet in person.
Okay. Yes.
Are you attending this year, or are you gonna miss this one?
No, I'm not. We haven't put anything. Possibly we'll go to a different one, to a different conference.
Okay. Yes. Well, I'll be following along and seeing where you're at. Yes. Okay, but I do want to talk about the two poster presentations that your team presented at the isokinetic conference last year. The first presentation was about the eating habits and sports nutrition knowledge in young elite football players. And from that conclusion, obviously, I wasn't there at the poster presentation, but I was reading within that book. And it suggested that the older athletes, they gave more suitable answers about their sports nutrition and habits. And like you mentioned, they knew more about the importance of strategizing, implementing, and you were talking about how the younger, they need to possibly be more educated and there needs to be kind of a higher level of vigilance. I want to first ask you how do you see that implementation looking at a young age? I know that you said we need to be better about it, but what does that actually look like for a kid to actually understand, not just taking information from a nutritionist saying, hey, we need you to eat the greens. We need you to eat an apple.
Yes, you're right. Because in the younger ages, you have this communication gap. It's not that easy to feel this. And through seminars, for example, or just talking and counseling one by one, or even small groups as well, which is okay at some point. But because they're kids, they're still kids. We see them as players, but they're still kids. Okay. One of the best ways to do this is through games. To do a game with nutrition, habits, and sowing fruits and vegetables, and say, or to which one you would substitute with, which food you would substitute with, and things like that. And just give the information, but they get it through a game, kind of a quiz or something, They will get the information, but not as an enforcement. We enforce you to do that because, we're very bad and we want you to be like that this year. No, this is not even our philosophy. This is our philosophy is that you have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
We don't enforce you to do. You have to individually do the right choice because it is the right choice and you want to be better. That's the philosophy we have as a club as well. So I think one of the best ways to do it is to organize, small games or something like a way to show them, yes, you can do it, but not in the way to enforce. I don't want to enforce it to you.
Okay. And there are going to be a number of medical providers tuning into this. And by no means am I a nutritionist. That was one of my first dream jobs when I was in college, but I just love food too much. And I said, that's too much food going on. But for medical providers who may be interacting with some of these young athletes, what role can they play in putting nutrition in the forefront of a young kid's mind? Because I do think a nutritional foundation can change the trajectory of really the longevity of a player's career.
Yes, that's right. Nutrition helps a player not only with performance, but also with the health and even the younger squad, the development of the player. So yes, it is very important for the medical teams to understand that and implement somehow and to collaborate with the nutritionists of the team to make a very, very strong program to that way, to educate and give incentives to do the right choices. So it's not only like, we don't do it only for performance. We do it for you. You have to understand that, okay, for your health, for your longevity, as you said, in the sport as well. Okay, because if you're not healthy, you cannot play at some point. Right. It's not only that it affects performance, but it affects your health as well. And in the case of injury as well, it's so much important because people think, okay, now I'm injured, I'm not playing, I will eat whatever I want, and I will stay and relax in my bed.
Yeah.
It's not like that, because if you are a player, you want to come back.
Right.
And you want to get better soon, very soon. Okay. So you have to be very comfortable in all aspects of rehabilitation, like, physiotherapy and medicine and everything, but also nutrition plays a huge role because muscle mass will subside, okay, with the time being in its era or having crutches and everything. So muscle mass will go away. And if you don't eat properly, what will happen? Fat will grow.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it will be very, very difficult to get it back.
Yeah.
Get the muscle mass back. Yeah.
How does an athlete's injured body, say, who is not taking care of their nutrition, change if they don't keep up with their nutrition?
Yes. Let's start from the point when a person wants to build muscle, right? What he needs to do in this case, he needs to do the right training in the gym, right? Okay, hypertrophy training, for example. Right. And he needs to eat properly. And what is the proper nutrition to that? It is to eat the right protein amount throughout the day, okay, for the period that he needs to put the muscle mass on. So that's the two things you need to do to increase your muscle mass and decrease your fat. In case you need to put on weight as well, you need to eat more calories as well. So it's three things you need to do, right? If you need to increase muscle mass and your body weight as well, you need to eat more, okay? But quality of food is very, very important in that case. So if this person then stops for some reason, he just got bored with the gym, or he's a player that got injured and stuff. What happens from physiology aspect? The muscle mass will go down because you don't do any hypertrophy training. Okay, it will return to the previous condition. Okay, you don't do any hypertrophy training, and if you're not caring about your nutrition and you eat whatever you eat, you take aways and chocolates and biscuits and something like comfort food as well is very common because you're down.
Yeah.
And this will really, really change very quickly, and your fat will go up, and all the kilos, if you get any kilos, it will be mainly from fat, not the muscle mass as you did before. Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, and if you most of the times people athletes that get injured at first, they lose body weight because they lose their muscle mass very quickly. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, but afterwards, if they don't check the quality of food, they get very they win fat, which is not a good case for the athlete.
Right. And I guess what strategies or even apps or things do you recommend for your athletes to understand the quality of food that they're getting, and that they're getting the, like you said, an appropriate amount, but also the good stuff that's good for your body?
Stuff. Yeah, that's the best thing you can do in an academy, because kids don't even realize something is not good. Sometimes they don't even realize. But what we say is the first and basic thing a nutritionist need to do, a sports nutritionist, is to have just a plain healthy diet as a base. I'm not talking about sports nutrition, okay? I'm talking about a healthy diet that has everything. It has quality stuff in it. And this is the base for everything. And on the top of that, you can build sports nutrition protocols you can implement to your athletes. This is the second step. Mm-hmm. So the first step is to let them to educate the athletes you have at any age. What is the quality stuff, right? And what a super diet, a very healthy diet, and super diet that gets to the next level should have. Okay, so this is first fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, all kind of colors in the diet. Avoid the bad fat, avoid takeaways, all this kind of sweets and fats you can find everywhere now. It is difficult, okay, but at the point that the athlete understands that how important it is to their to their performance, okay, this is very rewarding. This is what you say, okay, this is the rewarding part of my job. Yeah. How does it? Because they understood by themselves, and you're, even if you're not in front of them, and they do the right choice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is very rewarding. And how to do it? We do it through seminars. We do it through everyday practice when we are, on the lunch and dinners of the squads. Uh-huh. And we're giving advice how much and what, and things like that. Okay. So it is everyday practice. You don't stop doing that.
Gotcha. Okay. So I'm asking this because I played college soccer and I played overseas for a year, and clearly I missed this whole nutritional importance. Even though we had a nutritionist at our college, I think I missed it because I was under this impression, I trained so hard. But like you mentioned, you actually need to fuel yourself, and I hardly ate. So by the time mid-season would come during a season, I'd start off strong, then mid-season, it's like then all these little injuries would come up. Now, I know you talked about how it's just important first to get a base like a foundation of nutrition, and then you can build off of what sport you're participating in. Now, because this is specifically a soccer medicine podcast, when we think about soccer, what nutritional considerations are important in really outlasting a long season?
We should first think about the basic stuff, huh? Mm-hmm. Like you need to consider for each sport, you need to consider the nature of it in order to do any kind of interventions or any kind of give any kind of advice. What is the nature of soccer as a sport? Players need to play for 90 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. It is quite an aerobic sport with anaerobic phases throughout. Okay. So, and they have to run sometimes, I don't know about women, but men run about 10 kilometers, maybe 13, up to 13 kilometers per match. So it is a lot, it is quite high energy intake is needed. But also, if we think about the how energy gets into the body, right? Just to put it simply, what is the main macronutrient an athlete would need in such a case, right? To run for 90 minutes, what's the basic macronutrient? It is carbs. Isn't it? Mm-hmm. Carbs, because glycogen in muscle and liver after 90 minutes will be diminished. Mm-hmm. So if you don't replenish, if you don't eat enough before, and if you don't replenish throughout and afterwards, it will be zero. It will be diminished at the end of the game. And the player would not have the energy to go from the pitch up to home, what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have to replenish. This is a number one. Carbohydrates are a basic thing you need to care about throughout the year. Okay, it's not something, and especially around matches. And even if it is a congested period of matches with 2 matches per week or something like that, then it is even more important to fuel your athlete very much and basically on carbs. But this is kind of periodization. This is not always the case, because if the players, for sometimes they're out of training, or if they do an easy training and stuff, they don't need that much. So that's why I'm saying this should be around the matches mostly. Okay. Because otherwise you take more than you need, something like that, to put it simply, because this is a periodization model on carbs and the other macronutrients. Secondly, protein. Why an athlete would need protein for? Because he needs to build his muscular system. Okay. And this is very important as well, because if they don't have enough protein, it happens they cannot get the right muscle mass and the force that they need for playing out there. So yes, this is the second one. And just to say for micronutrients, to say for injuries and stuff, it is very important to eat a varied food. It's very important to keep getting all the micronutrients from food. Don't prioritize supplements, but food is much, much better for taking everything you need. If there is something that is really missing, like, for example, iron or vitamin D or something like that, then, okay, supplementation is an option. But if you don't have such deficiencies, then you can take everything from food. It is that simple. Okay, but you need to eat variety. In that way, you get your body tackling viruses and injuries much, much better.
Just real quick, I wanted to ask you about that carb situation. As you mentioned, surrounding the matches, the carb intake is a little bit more. And when we're not around the match, it might not be as much. Given every athlete may not have access to a nutritionist, but are there ways that an athlete maybe can feel or see that they maybe are taking too much carbs on the days that they're not actually playing a match?
To see if they're taking too much, you say, yeah?
Yeah.
Or not enough if they are needed.
Yeah.
It's not
just from your personal experience.
Basically, what about, because I said the word periodization, this is something new in research, not very new, but like the recent years we've heard this word periodization, which is a very nice, very good word, and we get to put it into practice. But
and real quick for our listeners, because some of them might not be familiar with periodization, can you just briefly explain what that actually means?
To periodize the macronutrients, like not always give the same amounts of carbs and protein and fat throughout the microcycle, throughout the year of training, right?
Okay.
This is very simply put. But I think that athletes really have an instinct by themselves and know when they don't train themselves, they don't eat that much. And when they train themselves, or they do a hard training, for example, I think there is an instinct saying, okay, put more carbs in it.
Okay.
Put less carbs in it. But if somebody needs to really to see it, to make it, more scientific, there are even apps nowadays that they say how much carbs a food has, or a snack, or your main, or your plate, for example. You can take photos and you can have
I did that for a month.
You do
just for a month, but it was just too time consuming for me. But yes, I know what you're talking about.
It is time consuming. I don't know how much somebody could do, but you can do it sometimes, and then just keep that in mind and have it as a proxy, how to say. Yes.
Okay. Well, let's jump on to your second presentation, because I know I'm hitting close to time. The other one was about the energy intake in young elite football players. And this finding suggested that the elite football players, they did achieve, I think, the current guidelines for their daily protein and fat intake, but their high carbohydrate intake wasn't enough to promote muscle glycogen storage. So the first question, could you explain the role of muscle glycogen when it relates to sport?
As I said before, muscle glycogen is very important, liver glycogen and muscle glycogen as well, because they're the only stores of carbohydrates in our body. We don't have other stores, although we have plenty of fat stores. Carb stores are not enough, and they are, how to say, diminishing day by day. If we don't eat carbs, the next day we won't have carbs in our body. So it is very, very important to optimize the levels we have in our body, right? And because we said before, soccer matches are they have high intensity and long duration, which is 90 minutes if a player plays for the whole game, which means that the muscle glycogen really diminishes at the end of the game. If you don't replenish it, if you haven't eaten enough, it really diminishes, which means performance drops. And just to say that, because it's very important, the last minutes of a match, they're the most important minutes possibly for a whole game, right? Because in the last minutes, it can, some teams may win and some teams may lose. Okay, they are very important minutes. So you don't want your player to go inside the match and at the last few important minutes of the game be like, very tired, and like they cannot do anything. They cannot even think, because glycogen help us think as well. Okay. And so it is really, really very important to optimize the levels of carbs. But as you said in the research we did, there is a tendency that athletes cannot top up at the levels the guidelines say. And we've seen from other research as well, it's not only our research we did, but we see from other research that even elite players from other championships, they don't top up as much as we would like them to do. And possibly this is because when you eat too much carbs, just think of yourself. If you eat too much pasta, then you might feel very bloated because the amounts needed, they are huge, right? And possibly it is a matter of, when we have to think about that in research, it is a matter of how the athlete feels, how much he can take. This is something we must think about as well, because if they don't feel like very well in their stomach, it is also a matter of performance as well, isn't it?
Right.
how well you feel before you go into mat, right? So maybe they avoid because they feel like, oh, I might get bloated or something like that. So they don't eat as much as the guidelines say.
Yeah. And do you think that's a fair reason? So they can feel fast and not be bloated?
They
Because
can
I
what?
think now that I think about it, to my athlete days, I think I probably thought that way. Like I probably just didn't eat as much because I didn't want to feel bloated or slow down. Huh.
Yeah, it is a matter. It is a matter because you cannot say, you should find the right, how to say,
The right amount.
amount for you. Yeah, you have to test your amounts and you have to be very well in your stomach, as well as very well carbohydrate full. How to say, you have to get both. But this is very individual as well. It's not
Right.
one fits all, it is also very individual. And we don't,
So for
should,
young athletes, this is something, I mean, maybe if they're in season, it might be a little bit more difficult to really monitor, but really during the off season, possibly like just keep tabs of how you feel after eating a certain food and just kind of make a note of that to kind of get your satiety
yes,
response.
you should test everything, not on a match day, but on a training day, which is the best way to do it, right? You should test it and know that, yes, I'm fine, I feel fine, and I have the right amount of energy as well. And sometimes we push, because as you said, the younger squads don't know how much it is okay. They haven't even tested on themselves.
Right.
Sometimes we say, you eat that, test yourself in the training. Okay. And then in the match, you should know what is the right amount. This is a good way to do it.
Okay.
It should not be the first time you do it before before a match, obviously. Yeah, it's not the right time.
Okay, that's very interesting because I wish I would have heard that when I was an athlete, but too late. But
Yes.
not too late because I'm still an athlete in some extent.
Oh, really?
Now,
Oh, you are? Okay.
so I'm actually training for a half marathon, and I'm going to ask my question at the end for you. But what about
Okay.
those athletes who are like, I just want to build muscle. I just want to stick to maybe just a protein diet for muscle building. What insight could you tell them, especially if they're a soccer player, on their thought process, and what would you advise them of?
It is very important to stick to the aims we've got, because like a football player cannot be a bodybuilder. It'd be very awkward to see somebody with huge muscles in the pitch, playing football. No. So yes, we mostly say you should be slender, but with good muscular system, not huge. So that's why you don't need extraordinary quantities of protein. It's not like you're training to do something like bodybuilding or something like that. This is something they have to understand. And it is not only nutrition, it is mainly, this is coming from supplements, from the supplement industry, if you want me to say that. Yes, because most of the athletes throughout the world, they're saying, oh, okay, I will take this supplement and I will be very fit and everything. I don't need the right food to do it. No, this is the wrong thought. Okay, we put food first and everything else afterwards.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I'm forgetting. I can't believe this. I normally start off asking you about food because when tourists comes to Greece and when I go there, I want to know the food to eat. So you're famous for food and wine. And here in the States, I recently got introduced to the Mediterranean diet because, some people are like, oh, we're going to go get Mediterranean food. We're trying to lose weight. Not that I'm trying to lose weight, but I would join them. How would you describe this Mediterranean diet? And is it truly a diet for y'all, or is that a way of life? that Mediterranean diet that we call it in the States?
Okay, it is a way of living, I think, because Mediterranean lifestyle, it is a better word to describe everything, because it becomes from the Mediterranean way of living throughout the previous centuries. And it was really a good way of living in terms of food and physical activity as well. It is both things in it.
Yeah.
Both terms in this lifestyle, the Mediterranean lifestyle. And like Mediterranean diet, it is one pillar of it. Okay. Mediterranean diet has many fruits and vegetables, raw or cooked. Okay. It has much fiber coming from pulses or from roasted bread. I don't know if you have it, we call it paksimadi in here. It is like bread, but it is oven roasted. I don't know how, yes,
so
how to say
really,
it.
So it's not really
like
processed.
rusks or something like that. They're full of fiber.
Okay.
Yes. And it has lower amounts of meat, and especially red meat, and it has enough fish. Okay, most of the days it is fish, raw vegetables, boiled vegetables, fiber from pulses too much in all kind of cooking, wine, but in the right quantities as well, which is, and olive oil, which is mainly the oil we have in Mediterranean and Greece. Yes, it is very good quality olive oil. And you get a very good amount of unsaturated fat, which is also, you can also find in nuts. So yes, this kind of diet, so the cohort say, the research says, okay, that it is very good for longevity. It is one of the main things because it is very high in antioxidants, and it is a good way of living. And if you add on that the physical activity that people used to have in the previous years, and we should maintain it in the current years as well. It is a 5-star diet to longevity and free from diseases that mainly come from the metabolic risk factors. So yes, it is really a good diet. I don't know if you liked it when you tried it.
I'll be honest with you, mine was, I think it was a burger, supposedly. It was a Greek restaurant. That's all I know. But it wasn't like a meat burger, but it was a burger that had something else, like some cheese and some different stuff. But it was pretty good. But now that I kind of have more insight, I might go sit at a Greek restaurant by myself tonight, try something.
I don't know if they follow the Mediterranean diet, to say the truth, okay, because
I think the States, we kind of do our own little thing to sweeten it up, to make it a little bit more tasty. Yeah, I know you haven't been to the States. Yeah, Americanized, that's the word. I know that you're a nutritionist, but please tell me, what's a cheat food for you?
I like burgers.
Oh, very
cool. I like burgers, but the good ones, not the bad.
Well, what's a bad burger for you? I mean, can you really go wrong with the burger?
I won't say, because the burgers that come from the big firms of I don't really like them. I like okay, let's say the Greek burgers. I like the Greek burgers.
So you don't like the cheap processed burgers?
No.
Okay.
I don't like. You look. I like very much the original tastes, not the manufactured tastes. It is something very odd to me. I don't like it. What I see is that the manufactured flavors, they're very famous to younger kids. Yes.
Kids, yeah.
Because they're grown with it. They're grown with it, and they
Yes,
don't
they're
know the
used to
original
that.
taste. Yes.
Yeah. Well, if you come to
Why?
the States, just know
Yeah.
that there's quite a bit of processed food. So you'll have to pick and choose where you go. But if you come to Georgia, I'll certainly take you to a nice restaurant that's fairly fresh. But these questions are just for my future nutritionists, because I know that there's some people that actually have aspirations to become a nutritionist and maybe to work for a sports team or just to collaborate with athletes. What's one thing that you wish you heard early on in your career before working as a nutritionist for just professional athletes or athletes in general?
It is an exciting job when we all think, things are, wow, exciting and everything is easy. Yes, I wish know how much of effort it needs to work very closely to athletes, because it is a professional setting. It's not like you have fun and everything. You have fun, it is rewarding, it is exciting, but at the same time you have to be very, very organized, as we said before, and you have to put a lot of effort and many sacrifices as well in your personal life. It is also an aspect. And yes, because I'm program leader for the MSc of Applied Sports Nutrition in collaboration with Oxford Brookes in UK, I have people coming and they want to be, a sports nutritionist. They want to work with athletes, which is very exciting to all. And what I'm saying is, first of all, you need to be to know in your head that you will work hard in this profession. Okay, you will work hard because it's not like, and you have to read all the time. It's like you are an educator to other people as well for the whole of life. And you have to read the recent research. You have to do your research as well. You have to pull data together. You have to read a lot. It's not like you finish with your master's, you're going home, you get a good profession. No, it's not ending. This is education never ends for us. If you stop it, you just stop being a professional.
I think in any field, like you mentioned, the sacrifices and the effort that is not, it's not just enough to do enough just to get by if you're trying to really do it at the highest level. For you though, what's one of the hardest sacrifices that you made coming up that you're so glad you did that helped set you up to where you are today?
Sacrifices. I have 2 children as well.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. That's amazing. How old are they?
They're 7 and 4.
Wow.
Yes.
They're really young.
They're really young. So yes, and I'm working very hard and many hours. At least I do some online work, which saves me some time, from time to time. And I have this staying home time. For sacrifices, I think a sacrifice. While I was in UK, I thought this is a perfect setting, to do my professional work. But what I couldn't sacrifice is to be with family. I couldn't sacrifice that to be with. So that's why I came back to Greece. And this is not something I regret, to say the truth, although in UK things seem to be better in the field of professionalism and working with teams and universities and everything. But yeah, family is a main aspect for me. And also Greece by itself, it is a very nice place to live in.
Okay.
So
yeah, I heard the family influence is huge. Well, what's life like for you and your family when you are not in season and you have more time on your hands to spare?
Oh, it's great. It is great. Now we go to nature excursions, we go in the sea, we do sailing as well, as I said before.
Your kids, not your kids, you do the sailing?
They do sailing. by
they're
themselves.
taught that early?
Yes.
Wow.
In Greece, yes.
How early?
From the age of 4, they can do this small boats, the dinghy boats. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, when I come to Greece, I'll see if I can have a kid do my tour.
Yes.
Well, finally, because most people see you as a nutritionist, but you talked about how it gives you much fulfillment seeing kind of people understanding the importance of their nutrition and really implementing it. What more do you hope to contribute in the nutritional space?
Yes, I want to see people be happy with what they do. Okay, even their players, that they are happy with their nutrition and how they develop themselves through it. Okay, either I see young sports nutritionists through the masters we do, that they fulfill their dreams and they get jobs related to this, what is their dream job. This is very fulfilling and rewarding for me. So this is, you can think, oh, you did an impact to people's lives and make them feel something a little bit higher than, baseline.
Yeah.
Make the dreams come true. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I tell all my guests I had such a great time, but I really genuinely had such a wonderful time getting to know a little bit about Greece, and food, obviously, like I said, is my favorite thing. So thank you. Yeah, it literally is my favorite thing in the world, I think. But it's been great. And I hope that we will eventually cross paths in the near future.
Yes. Just let me know if you come to Greece. I enjoyed very much our talk, and you're great as a journalist. And you have great topics in your podcast. Thanks a lot, and keep up the good work.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Later.
Thanks for tuning in. Now go rate and share with your fellow peeps. I'll catch you next month.